to be with you. You all are doing it. You are doing it. It is so good to be with you. Let me, first of all, where's GK? There you are. GK Butterfield is an extraordinary, not only leader for North Carolina, but a national leader. And you know, I work with GK in rooms where there are no cameras and rooms where there are cameras. And he is the same person every time. And always fighting for the people of North Carolina, always fighting for the working people of this state, and always fighting to make sure on the national scene that North Carolina gets the respect it deserves. So thank you, GK, for everything that you do and for your friendship. Reverend Barber. Listen, I have to tell you, Reverend Barber is just so, he is a voice of conscience for our country. Reverend Barber makes sure that everyone, I have seen him in Congress, walk in those halls, making sure that everyone has front of mind the issue of poverty in America, hunger in America, and that we speak truth about what is wrong and what needs to be fixed. Reverend Barber has prayed with me. He has encouraged me, and so I just want to, in front of the folks from his home state, I want to thank Reverend Barber for all that you are and all that you do. Goldsboro Mayor Chuck Allen, where are you? There you are. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for welcoming us and for all you've been doing here in your role of leadership. And State Representative Raymond Smith, there you are. Thank you, sir. I see the Divine Nine is well represented. See it? It's so funny. You know, when I got the nomination at the Democratic Convention, and I gave my speech, and I talked about family, and I said, you know, family, and these are the things that are family to me. And then I said the Divine Nine. And, you know, these reporters who cover presidential elections, some of them were like, well, what's that? And I was like, you about to find out. We are here. The chair of the Wayne County Democratic Party and state representative candidate Carl Martin, where are you? There you are, my alpha brother. There you are. And state Senate candidate Donna Lake, where are she? Introduced me. There you are. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. So, okay, we are practically on the eve of the election that will decide the course of our country probably for generations. We are within our hands, within our voices, within our possession, having the ability, and I see everybody out there too, having the ability Yes, I see you. I see you. We have the ability, we have the power to make a decision about who will be the next president of the United States, and that person will be Joe Biden. And you know, Joe talks a lot about this. You know, we're in the midst right now as a country, we're in the midst of 4 crises happening at the same time. And when we think about the outcome of this presidential race, when we think about what you're going to do when it comes to the Senate race, we know we have a real opportunity to confront these crises, but they are real, so we must call them out. We are dealing with the crisis of a public health epidemic that is, in my opinion, a mass casualty event of a proportion we have not seen since World War II. Over 225,000 Americans have died in just the last several months, many tragically because of the nature of it, without their family to be there by their side to hold their hand for their last days on this earth. Over 9 million people have contracted this virus, many of whom will have unknown long-term consequences. Doctors are talking about things like lung scarring. And the thing is, it didn't have to be this bad. It didn't have to be this way. Because you see, thanks to a fellow by the name of Bob Woodward, we know that Donald Trump was informed back on January 28th about the seriousness of this, informed that it is 5 times more deadly than the flu, informed that it could hurt people of every age, informed that it was airborne and highly contagious. And what did he do with that information? He sat on it. He covered it up. He suggested it's a hoax. He suggested he's got a ledger and you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, and on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And now he is also in the midst of a public health crisis in court, trying to sue to get rid of Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act, which President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden brought to the American people and covered over 20 million people who did not have coverage, including people with pre-existing conditions. So everybody raise your hand or clap if you know somebody with diabetes, if you know somebody with high blood pressure, if you know somebody with lupus or a survivor of breast cancer. And they're suing to get rid of these protections in the midst of a public health crisis. North Carolina, there is a very, very clear choice in this election. Because you see, on the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who says, I'm going to build on what we did with the Affordable Care Act. We're going to expand coverage. We're going to bring down the cost of prescription drugs, bring down the cost of premiums, bring down the age of Medicare eligibility to age 60. We're going to recognize that when we're talking about health care, the body didn't just start from the neck down. It includes the neck up, and that's called mental health care. But on the other hand, you got Donald Trump trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. There are real choices. Let's talk about the fact that we are looking at an economic crisis that is being compared to the Great Depression. Over 30 million Americans in just the last several months filed for unemployment. Here in North Carolina, 1 in 9 households is describing hunger in their household. Here in North Carolina, 1 in 6 households is describing a difficult time, if inability at all, to pay the rent. 1 in 6 small businesses in North Carolina has gone out of business. And you got Joe Biden, who says, look, when we talk about the economy, and anybody asks Joe about how the economy's doing, you know what Joe says? Joe says, well, how are working people doing? How are working families doing? That's what Joe asks. Joe says, you want to talk about the economy? Then let's deal with the fact that no working family should pay more than 7% of their income in child care. Joe Biden says, we will not raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000 a year, and we will bring down middle-class taxes. Joe says, let's invest that money in the people, in working people. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who, when asked, how's the economy doing, asks, well, how's the stock market doing? How are rich people doing? And so he passes a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit for the rest of us. Well, I'm going to tell you, North Carolina, you help us win this election, and Joe and I are about to get rid of that tax cut and invest that money in working families, invest that money in our infrastructure, put billions of dollars into upgrading our roads and our bridges and investing in renewable energy, investing in working people, understanding that that is an investment with a huge rate of return. Joe is always going to bet on the American worker and the American people. There's a real choice in this election. Let's deal with the crisis of a long overdue reckoning on racial injustice in America. So you have Joe, a student of American history, who has the courage to speak the phrase, "Black Lives Matter." Joe, who understands real leadership, has the courage to speak truth even when it is difficult and uncomfortable to hear. Joe understands that we have to deal with these racial disparities when we see that African Americans and Latinos are 3 times as likely to contract COVID and twice as likely to die from it, not to mention our Native American brothers and sisters who have the highest rates of diabetes of any population in the country. Joe says, let's deal with the racial wealth gap in America when black families own 1/10 of the wealth of other families. Let's deal with the fact that black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women. Joe has the courage to speak the truth and then address it in a way that is about fighting for equality and equity, knowing that's what everyone wants. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who, during that first debate, you'll recall, refused to condemn white supremacists and went on to double down and say, stand back and stand by. And it's important to remember that this is not a one-off. There's a pattern at play here. Remember that Donald Trump came in office campaigning, questioning the legitimacy of America's first black president. Remember on the issue of Charlottesville, where folks were peacefully protesting racial injustice. There was a young woman who was killed. And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis wearing swastikas, carrying tiki torches, spewing racist and anti-Semitic slurs. And the President of the United States said there were fine people on both sides. Came into office calling Mexicans rapists and criminals. One of his first orders of business was a Muslim ban. We are better than this. We are better than this. We deserve better than this. And the thing about Joe is that he understands that regardless of where you live, your race, your gender, your age, the language your grandmother speaks, Joe knows that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. Joe knows that the real strength of any human being is measured not based on who you beat down, but who you lift up. There are real choices in this election. Let's look at the fact that we are in the midst of a climate crisis. Now, you all know I come from California. Well, the whole west coast of our country is burning. California to Oregon to Washington over to Colorado. These wildfires, I've met with the families that have been evacuated, never to return to their home again. I've met with the firefighters who were fighting fires while their own homes were burning. In fact, my brother-in-law is a firefighter. You look at all of the Gulf states and the storms. You know there have been this year, 5 named storms just this year. And you know you name a storm because it's really bad. We're seeing this all over our country. And so Joe says, we got to deal with this with a sense of urgency, understanding this is going to represent an existential threat to who we are as human beings. And we can do something about this, but we must embrace the science. We must take this on with a sense of urgency. We must have timelines like 2050 for net zero emissions and understand There's an opportunity in the moment to create jobs, to invest in renewable energies, to invest in research and development, to invest in wind turbines and solar paneling, to partner up with the building trades and the electricians and the carpenters and see what the potential is here, to allow us to be a leader on the globe, see what we will do. We are committed to investing in America's auto industry so we will be the #1 global manufacturer of electric vehicles. There's an opportunity in this moment. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who, when asked about the wildfires, and the journalist asked something that went kind of like this. So, these wildfires are happening, and the scientists are saying that that human behaviors are contributing to the extreme climate changes we're seeing, and that's contributing to these wildfires. The President of the United States, who is also the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, responded by saying, "Science doesn't know." Now, Mr. President, science does know, and that is why the leading science magazine endorsed Joe Biden for President of the United States. So these are just a few of the issues that are confronting us right now as a nation. And again, we have it within our power. We have it within our power to do something about it. And so that brings me to why I am here today and have come back to North Carolina. And first, it is to thank you, because you wouldn't be here were it not for the fact that you are a leader. And so I am here, first of all, on behalf of Joe and myself, to thank you for what you have done to get us to this moment. And to say this, look, this election, we want to make sure that everybody votes. And if you have your ballot, your vote by mail ballot, go to the county elections office. You can't take it to the polling place. Go to the county elections office. You can drop it off there or vote on election day at your polling site. But, here's the thing I want to talk about voting. A lot of people come up to me like you, I'm sure, and they say, well, why should I vote? And I think there are 3 reasons. 1, to honor the ancestors. To honor the ancestors. So GK and I and our country just lost a great American hero who is now among the ancestors, the great Congressman John Lewis, who told us to get in good trouble. I think that's what we're doing right now. And John Lewis shed his blood on that Edmund Pettus Bridge for the right for us to vote. Honor the ancestors. We celebrated this year the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment so that women could vote in America. Those suffragettes in their white marching and shouting, saying women have a right to vote. Now, being true to history, we also need to note black women couldn't vote until 1965. But let's celebrate the ancestors and understand that what they did, the blood they shed for our right to vote must be honored. That's reason number 1. Reason number 2, everything is at stake. Everything is at stake. Everything we just discussed is at stake, including our democracy, including our standing on the globe, including having a president of the United States who honors the American intelligence community over foreign dictators, including having a president who speaks with grace and carries themselves with dignity, believing in the best of people. Everything is at stake in this election. And the 3rd reason to vote is this. Here in North Carolina, you know more than most that there have been active people trying to suppress the vote, trying to make it difficult for people to vote, trying to make it confusing for people to vote. I don't have to tell you what the Court of Appeal here in North Carolina said, which is that that one law was written with, quote, surgical precision to make it difficult to vote. All across the country, and I've been traveling all over the country. I was just in Texas and Florida. Before I got here, I was in Georgia. I'll be all over. And it's happening everywhere. And here's the thing. I mean, to the point that even they're messing with the post office. I mean, the post office, GK, the nicest people in the world work for the post office. Why are they messing with the post office? And so one has to ask that question. Why are so many powerful people trying to make it so difficult and confusing for us to vote? And I do believe the answer is because they know our power. They know our power. They know when we vote, things change. They know when we vote, we win. So let's not ever let anyone take our power from us. Let us not be sidelined. Let us not be silenced. There is too much at stake, and the ancestors expect so much more from us than that. And my last point is this. This moment will pass. And years from now, our children, our grandchildren, others, they will look in our eyes, each one of us, and they will ask us, where were you at that moment? And what I know we all are going to tell them is so much more than just how we felt. We will tell them what we did. We will tell them that we organized, that we mobilized. We will tell them we emailed and called and texted everybody we knew multiple times to the point they got sick of us, but we knew they'd come back around. We will tell them what we did to stand for our democracy, knowing that America's democracy is as strong as our willingness to fight for it. In North Carolina, we will tell them we elected Joe Biden, the next president of the United States. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.